CAM CAE, BioCAD, and human factors in CAD, innovative product design, and advanced manufacturing technologies, including hybrid, die-less, additive, and smart manufacturing. He has a wide experience throughout the globe, and he has been traveling across the globe, presenting papers, getting grants from various agencies, getting a lot of students into the research, guiding them for PhD, guiding them from MTech, and so on. But the prominent features of his big profile, let me read it out for all of you. He has got more than 31 years of experience in this field of education, engineering, and practice. He has got 240 plus publications in all various reputed journals, conferences, seminars, etc., peer-reviewed journals, book chapters, conference proceedings, and so on. Besides that, he has authored 2 books and has got several patents to his credit. He is also a guest editor in few journals of mechanical engineering. He has been actively working on the novel metal forming techniques. The lab which he works in, I have been fortunate to see personally the lab which he has been working at, and this has been continuing for more than a decade. And in this area, Professor Tandon has received several grants from the government and other agencies like DHI, MHRD, BRNS, and so on. Not to forget the DST SERB scheme or the DST Advanced Manufacturing Technology has been the source of grants for the work that Professor Tandon has carried out. He has been awarded the 2020 Dear India Fellowship Award with Padova University, Italy, and he has been also awarded the first prize in the IMTEX Metal Forming 2016 on die-less manufacturing, second prize in IMTEX 2018, and the list goes on of his prizes, accolades, and awards that he has been receiving from all over the country, including the industrial and academic bodies. He has got an extensive administrative experience also besides his academic accolades, academic achievements. And these experiences include his being the member board of governors at PDPM IIT IIIT Jabalpur, member board of governors Manit Bhopal, Dean Planning and Development for 2 terms, head of the design discipline and chief vigilance officer PDPM IIIT Jabalpur. Professor Tandon is the coordinator of the National Resource Center on Design established by MHRD, Government of India. He was also president of the Institutional Innovation Council at IIIT Jabalpur, held under the MHRD Ministry, Government of India. He has been also the organizer of the International Conference on Innovation in Design and Manufacturing 2012 and Design Workshop during the years 2010, 13, 14, and 16. He is a member of International Program Committee of CAD conferences and on advisory committee of various international conferences. He has been a part of multiple conference program committees and technical committees. Besides, he has chaired numerous sessions in the international and national conferences of repute. He has also delivered a lot of keynote lectures, plenary addresses, and invited talks. He also participated actively in international academic organizations. So I was finding it difficult to read it out the entire profile, but then finally I'm sure that I was able to give a fair idea of who is our guest for the day. Dr. Tandon, I respectfully invite you to this session and request you to kindly carry forward with your talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manish, for very kind introduction, particularly the starting words.
Thank you.
I know it's very kind of you actually. Okay, so without wasting any further time, let's go to the agenda. That's the talk, and I think everybody is aware that the title of my talk is design thinking, and the purpose. Let me tell you, like why when we are talking about Chitresh, actually, I picked up this topic because this is a very live topic. There's a lot of buzzword these days in both academia and industry about design thinking. But honestly, people interpret with different meaning. So I thought that it will be wise to maybe go in such a manner so that everybody becomes clear what exactly the design thinking process is. And more important, I will be happy if you start implementing the design thinking process in your lifestyle actually. Okay. So obviously the first thing is that I should tell you what is design thinking process. So allow me to share my screen. Is it visible? Is my screen visible to all of you?
It's not, sir.
Not yet?
Screen is not visible. Not visible, sir.
Okay, let me do it once again. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So once again, thank you, Chitresh and the Oriental Institute of Science and Technology, Bhopal, for giving me an opportunity in Atal program to deliver a talk on design thinking. I've been already being introduced, so there is no need of reading it out again. This is like one bird's eye view of my campus. The building which you can see is the lecture hall tutorial complex. And at the back of this building is the hostel block for the students. The hostels which are visible to you on the right hand side are basically undergraduate hostels. And on the left hand side, if you're able to see my mouse very small, they are basically PG hostel and the girls hostel. So I'll start my talk by asking you a very buzzword. Are you aware what is innovation? And let's make it open. If you want to speak it out, please speak in between. If you have any question also in between, please do not hesitate to ask me at that point of time. Although I leave maybe 10 to 15 minutes towards the end for you to interact on this particular topic, and it will become only interesting only when if we are able to make it interactive. Okay, so I hope everybody knows the innovation, but probably you are feeling shy to answer what is innovation. One very good thing about innovation and design and thinking is that there's no wrong answer. So whatever answer you give, you need not worry, your answer will be right. The only question can be, I can give an answer in a better manner, slightly better manner, or maybe in a slightly different manner. So it is something like this. You go to an ice cream parlor to eat ice cream. The ice cream parlor offers you some 50 different varieties of ice cream. And all those ice creams are very tasty. You cannot eat all 50 ice creams on the same time. So we'll pick one or maybe two of those ice creams at that point of time. That doesn't mean the other 48 or 49 ice creams are not tasty or they are not good. It's only the decision of eating one ice cream at that point of view. You say that, okay, I'll eat Malai coconut or maybe Sitafal, because you wanted to do at that particular point of time. If you go tomorrow, probably you go for some other ice cream, you go for berry berry. So what I wanted to convey through this particular thing is that that's how the real life process works, and that's how it is different than what we teach in a closed walls of what we call as a classroom. Actually, in the classroom, whenever we teach any course, whether it's from mechanical engineering or from electronics, or maybe even basic sciences, our emphasis is to get one answer right. But actually, there is no one right answer. All the answers are right. It depends upon the circumstances. It depends upon the time frame. It depends upon even the mindset also. So what we have to do is that we have to pick an optimal answer, not the best answer. And the optimality of the answer will depend upon what I said right now, various factors which are prevalent at that particular point of time. So maybe you have to fly from, for example, from Bhopal to Bombay. You go to airport, you find that the tickets are very costly. You prefer going by train. But if you have an emergency, even if it's very costly, you'll fly. Similarly, you had planned that you thought that there is no emergency, I can go by train, but suddenly you find that day the prices of the airlines are damn down. maybe just slightly more than a train fare. So second AC is costing them 2,000 plus rupees. Flight is costing 2,200, 2,400. So without giving an iota of thought, you'll fly. So that is what you have to take a decision, and that's is the way real life works. So coming back to my question, innovation. Many people say mix up it with say creativity. Although both the terms are similar, but there is a difference between these two terms. That's why I have put these two terms on this slide. So innovation is what we know is when you are doing something different. And when I say something different, it is the difference is not known by most of the people who deal with that particular thing. So please understand, we are not talking about experts who deal with that particular thing in that domain, but most of the people like you, me, any other who deals with this particular product. But the most important aspect of innovation is that it should add some value. Now, creativity is silent about market value. So what I have given this definition also, it's a process of making an idea or innovation into what? A good, a product that is, or a service. And that product or service must create a value and for which the customers must be ready to pay. Creativity is something like probably in our childhood during school days, when we were dealing with mob psychology, your friend is running very fast and you just put your leg in front of his legs and he fell down. Now, where you put your leg, that's also creativity, but that's not innovation. But it's not creating value, and it's not positive creativity. What we are interested in is the positive creativity. Creativity can be negative aspect also. The way you, like, for example, your mother has made some sweet dish and you want to eat it without letting her know. So you devise some mechanism. That's also creativity, but that's not innovation. So the major difference between creativity and innovation lies that innovation must add value. That means it must be taken by the customers. It must be appreciated by the customers. And the basic premise is that it must be unknown to the people who deal with that particular product. Another very important aspect of creativity is solving problems. And that's what design thinking also talks about. So we have to solve problems. And when I say solve problems, obviously it means that we have to solve by creative ways, innovative ways, the ways which are different than the existing methodologies. So when we talk of creativity, basically the people who practice or who preach creativity are called creative thinkers. And creative thinkers synthesize two combinations. Synthesize means make up new things. So engineering also talks of two different things, analysis and synthesis. So creation of new solutions is called synthesis. And to create new solutions, creative solutions, science says that there are two styles of thinking. This is cognitive science. And this cognitive science talks about there's a vertical or convergent thinking style, or there's a lateral or divergent thinking style. The first, as the name also says, when you go deep into the process, you try to solve it well. And the second, lateral divergent, when you spread up, give more and more options and you move in the horizontal manner or lateral manner. So vertical thinking is the analytical process, analytical thought process, which moves in a sequential manner. While lateral thinking moves in a non-sequential manner, that means it allows the mind to wander in different directions and in the process synthesize new solutions. Now, many of them will be like junk solutions. They will be rejected. But even if we are able to give one solution, that's good enough actually. So if you read this thing also, vertical thinking means that it is more scientific in nature because it works on rules, analytical, while lateral is non-scientific because it doesn't follow any rule, any law, and can jump from one point to another point. Now, what do you get from this image? This is a face of a human being, and the focus is on two parts of the brain. So the brown one is the right side of the brain, and the blue one is the left side of the brain. So the brain is broken into two hemispheres, and again, as the cognitive science says, that there are two different functions of the brain. So left side of the brain deals with vertical thinking or analytical thinking, what we follow in science and technology, while brown part, that is the right side, focus on creativity. So fine arts, music, dance, drama, that's all, even social connections, that's all the right part of the brain's function. So let me put in a black and white in a tabular format. So if you look at this again, so left side talks about language, numbers, analytical thinking, while right side talks about expression, emotional intelligence, imagination. So right side talks about creativity, while left side talks about logic. So we know that 2 plus 2 will be always 4, it cannot be 3, it cannot be 5. That's what logic says. But creativity says, okay, why don't we make 2 plus 2 4.5 or 3.5? That's creativity. And this is a difference which lies that the left brain or critical thinking talks about logical, analytical, judgmental process, while right side talks about generated or suspended judgment process. Left side, critical thinking follows in a linear manner. Right side follows associative manner. Critical thinking, as we know in the science and engineering also, it leads to only one solution. While the right side, that is creative thinking. So there's a critical thinking and creative thinking. It leads to many possible solutions. Many solutions. The left side considers only relevant information, while the right side considers broad range of information. In the left part of the brain follows sequential, rule-based manner. The movement of the brain thought process is based upon some sequence, some rules, while right side of the brain moves in random pattern. So this talks about vertical, lateral, convergent, divergent, and as I said in the beginning, the engineers and technical people, they normally use more their left side of the brain, while arts and social science people, they use more the right side of their brain. So if we go to this particular slide, as the name also says, creative thinking, so we can imply that creativity is meant for all the right brainers. And I put a question mark. I don't know whether it's right or not, and I don't know whether you like to comment or not. Is this right? I don't know. Okay. So then the question comes, which one are you? Are you a left brain person or right brain person? And there is a very interesting thought also which you can see from this image. The left side line is only line drawings, okay, the curve form, while the right part of the brain is also filled with multiple colors. There is no sequence, no logic in the way the colors are being put. So my question is, which one are you? Are you left or are you right? So again, let me give answer for you only. So cognitive studies have showed that the left hemisphere focuses more on analytical, logical information, and it moves in a manner which is sequential in nature. While the right hemisphere deals more strongly with relationship, like the relationship between siblings, the relationship between parent and child, the relationship between friends, and in the process integrate and synthesize information and arrive at intuitive insights. So that's the role of the right hemisphere of the brain, while the left is more analytical, logical, and sequential. So what we can say always, what we can understand, that scientists and engineers are often characterized as being left brain. Very right? But then, nothing is prohibiting us to become a whole brain individual. And that's what the crux of my today's talk is, that by design thinking process, and I'll tell you the process also, the second part of my talk, we have to focus on utilizing both the sides of our brain. So we have to use the left side of brains to follow rules, laws, make scientific things, and we also have to use the right part of our brain for making creative things, or making the things creative. Because if you are not making creative things, you are not going to succeed in a longer run. You may succeed once, you may succeed twice, but not after that, because the likes and dislikes of people are changing so fast that you have to be not only dynamic, but also highly creative. You have to come out with a solution very fast and a different solution. So you have to be different. So what we mean is that creativity is equally meant for both the left brainers and the right brainers. And it basically means for all the left brainers, it will lead to a creative spark. And that's what we wanted to have. So this creative spark will make a difference. So since I can understand that most of the audience will be from the science and technology background, so my objective of my talk, design thinking, is to allow you to keep on using the left side of the brain. I'm not saying that don't use the left part of your brain, but my only request to all of you is to also use the right side of the brain. And the purpose is to make a difference. If you use the right part of your brain also, you will be able to make a difference and you will become a problem solver. Now, if you look at this particular image, there's a lot of things and there is a lot of confusion. For example, there is bar graph, there is messages, there is camera, there is a laptop or desktop system monitor, there is Excel sheet, there's a mail, there's a lock, there's a mobile phone, there's a book, there's a card, there's a pencil. I don't know how the things are interlinked. There's a laptop also over here. But this is a problem normally given to you. Why I say this is a problem normally given to you? Because this problem is given to you by the people who themselves don't know what the problem is or what they expect. So they have just given you some problem which is very poorly articulated, which is not defined at all, and they expect you to solve the best possible manner. So something which is not clear, say we do not know whether they are hungry or whether they are sleepy or whether they want a good dress, you cannot give them a solution. They throw some random data in front of you. So you have to capture the data, you have to logically analyze it to frame the problem, and then only then you can become a problem solver. So with this design thinking or innovative style, we can make a problem solving. Incidentally, I'm sorry, I forget to tell you the 3 icons at the bottom of my screens talks about my lab, my research group, the Logic Lab and the Solution Lab, which is stand for social innovation. Basically, my two Logic Lab is more my scientific and technological lab, which deals with primarily my left side of the brain, and the Solution Lab is more related to the innovations in the social domain, which tries to maybe provide food for thought to the right hemisphere of my domain. And this left hand side image is basically my research group, which is innovations in design and manufacturing. So these are like 3 icons which I put on this slide so that you become aware of this. So the problem solvers, the design thinkers come into picture. And if you look at this image, this is a classic old time image which depicts a like sudden lightning of the bulb. Dimag ki batti jal gayi. So design thinkers are one which is responsible for getting the dimag ki batti jalana of the customers, making the light or maybe the object or the objective clear in the brains of the people. But it is not suddenly. Please do not take it like this. It will be a sudden process. It requires a lot of efforts, a lot of iterations, a lot of interactions with the users, a lot of scientific and research work. But then all these jobs are done by design thinkers, who are responsible for getting some creative solution. But then why only design thinkers? This job can be done by anybody and everybody. So why I'm only targeting a design thinkers, or why I'm trying to sell design thinkers so strongly? The reason is design is basically creativity. Design leads to creativity and creativity leads to synthesis. Now synthesis, I think everybody has heard in your school days. So you must have heard about photosynthesis. You must have heard about reactions, chemical reactions in chemistry, which synthesize new chemicals. So the process of building up new solutions or joining different ideas to make a new solution is what we call a synthesis. And that's what the design is all about. And that's what the design thinkers are the most adept at. So creativity is nothing but a methodology for innovation and, very important term, enablement. Enablement is very important because unless until you enable the people, the system, in spite of the fact that many creative solutions have come, many innovative solutions have come, it will not see the light of the day. So creativity makes the people they enable the people, or enablement, and it also is a methodology for innovation. So that's what, in a very brief, we can say that creativity is a methodology for innovation and enablement. So, and why only today we are talking about innovation and enablement? That is, this time is one of the perfect time because there's a lot of changes required in social, economic, and environmental improvement, and there's no better than time today. And there are no persons who are better than design thinkers who can make this difference, because we are crossing through a crossroad. We are passing through a crossroad where the need for social development, social improvements, economic development, and environmental improvements are huge. They are going to make a huge impact into the lifestyle or life cycle of the human being. And there is no better person to make such difference than a design thinker. Again, my question comes back, why are design thinkers? Why I am focusing so strongly about design thinkers? So design thinkers have certain very special characteristics. And it's not that you can say that in a class of 50 students, 25 will be design thinkers, 25, and 25 will not be a design thinker, and you can do pick and choose. Please understand that's not possible. So design thinkers are people become thinkers, design thinkers, because they not only understand what design thinking is, but they practice design thinking also very rigorously and very strongly. So they are the people who venture out of box. That's a very important point. So they don't look at the conventional solutions. They try to think out of box. They try to think in a different manner, radically different manner. They may give very absurd thoughts. And that's what I normally tell my students also. Many times students don't ask questions. Even when I was a student, we also have the same feeling. And I think you will agree with me also. As a student, we normally feel that if I ask this question to a teacher, the teacher might think this is a very stupid question. Please understand there's no question as a stupid question. And in fact, these so-called stupid question, quote unquote stupid questions, they lead to the fundamental change in the sector. So, because these are the questions which lead to out-of-box thinking. So any foolish idea, any stupid idea which you think probably can be one brainstorming, can be a breakthrough idea or breakthrough innovation. So nothing is bad. Only thing is that you have to think in a manner which most of the people do not think, or are not capable of thinking. So your idea may not be successful now, but nobody is going to stop it to making it a success tomorrow. And that's what you have to look at. Like I was talking to once to my one group of students, and I was asking them like, how do they come from their hostel to the classroom? So that day we were having classes in the top floor of our lecture hall complex, and people started telling different ways they can travel. I asked, how many of you stay in the top floor of your hostel? There are many people. So what do you do? So the answer was that they have to start at least 4 or 5 minutes earlier, because they have to come down to the ground floor, take the route, and there are multiple routes depending upon what time of the year, what time of the day, what are the exigency. They can take multiple routes. Like for example, they will prefer to take a shortcut, but they cannot take a shortcut maybe in the present time when it's raining very heavily outside. Incidentally, in Jabalpur it's raining very heavily right now. So because the path will be slippery. So I told them, why don't you think of something radically of cutting down this time? So people start giving different ideas. Suddenly one idea came to my mind. I said, Why don't you go to the top floor of your hostel, make a catapult, sit on a catapult, and let the catapult throw you on the top of the lecture hall tutorial complex. So you will fly through the air, land directly on the top of the roof of the lecture hall complex, take just one stair down, and you're in the classroom. Probably the fastest. So that's not a practical solution today. But then who knows tomorrow? I think everybody, if not everybody, most of you must have read the novels of Harry Potter series. So what does the Horcrux talks about? Horcrux is not reality today. But can you guarantee it will not be reality maybe a decade down the line or 2 decades down the line? It might be. Because many sci-fi movies which we talk about or which we watch, they are not realistic, but they become realistic after a certain time interval. Who has thought that we can send a spacecraft to Jupiter? Or who has thought some 75 years back, maybe that people can go and land on moon? Okay, so these are like something. So this is only possible when you think out of box, non-conventional. But I'm not asking you to think in that particular manner right now. What I'm asking you, what I'm requesting you is to think in a manner which is different than the conventional people think. So if conventional people think that the sequence is always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, why don't you think a sequence which doesn't follow the rule of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? That's what out of box thinking is. This point is also very important. The people, design thinkers are open-minded. Open-minded means that they don't get bogged down by the available knowledge, because they create knowledge and they start using it. And they are very, very open-minded in the sense that they are ready to listen to the thought process of the other people. So design thinkers should have very open ears and wide eyes. They should preferably try to keep their mouth as much shut as possible, but in the process, they should try to open their ears and eyes as wide as possible. And they should be ready to listen anything and everything. Whether they are thinking that the person who is telling them is just a crab or just a bullshit, you should not be rejecting. Because you never know that from that crab, some very interesting thought, some very interesting idea may come, or some very interesting product get born. So that's what open-minded is. Then these are the people who also enjoy collaborative ideation. So normally they don't work alone. So they collaborate. And in the process, they strongly believe in knowledge multiplication. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the bane of Indian community also, that rather than becoming 1 + 1 is 2, when we collaborate with another person, we try to act in such a manner that 1 + 1 become half. This is not a good idea. Second thing is that one cannot have knowledge of all the domains. And if you start having the knowledge of all the domain, you cannot be experts. So when the experts are available, why don't you hire them? You take the expertise of the expert available and you become expert in one domain. Another very important dimension of this thing is that if you look at any product which is available in market, and I'll ask you one question. Can you very strictly or rigidly compartmentalize into a pure mechanical product or a pure electronic product or a pure computer science thing, maybe software or anything? The answer to this question is a big no, capital N, capital O. The reason is, look at anything. We used to be very fanciful about automobile. We used to say automobile engineering is all mechanical. But look at the engine these days. Look at the engines are controlled. They have a lot of sensors, a lot of electronics, and it has, like, if you look at most of the modern automobiles, they have onboard computers, which normally does a check before you start the system that everything is working okay. Same way, if you look at, for example, mobile phones, people may say that mobile is meant for communication. It's a pure electronic device. Again, the answer is a big no. Yes, electronics is a prime component of a mobile phone, but then so is the embedded programming, which computer scientists will do it, or embedded programmer will do it. So is the manufacturing technique of making the mobile phone, which a manufacturing engineer does. So is the aesthetics of a mobile phone, which a designer does. So that you prefer mobile phone X in comparison to mobile phone Y, because mobile phone X is more fanciful. Or maybe you are talking about the Gorilla glasses, Corning glasses, and blah blah, which is a job of a uh, ceramic engineer or a glass engineer. So one should understand that in the present era where technology is shrinking very fast, the world is shrinking very fast, we cannot have very strict compartments of any product, and there is no idea about no fun of compartmentalization in the education. So same is true with the ideation also. We must work in a collaborative environment, and in the process we must constantly keep our eyes on the product and on the future. Product is required because you want to make a successful product. You do not want to make a product which nobody is willing to purchase, in spite of the fact that it is scientifically very advanced. And you should also keep an eye on the future, so that you don't lose track of what is going to happen tomorrow. Like we have been talking about electrical vehicles and hydrogen powered, hydrogen fueled electrical vehicles so strongly, in spite of the fact that they are not that popular or that popularly available on the roads today. There are many challenges, but still we are keeping eye on the product and eye on the future, because probably that is the thing which is going to have in tomorrow. And there is a lot of competition between even the electrical vehicles and hydrogen cell powered vehicles, because both talk about computing technologies and both are working to design solutions which are going to be futuristic in. And another very important thing is that design thinkers are people who have passion for change. They are not locked down by the chain which have been put on their foot, but they break the chain, the shackles of the chain very frequently, and they change it. They are not confined to what is going on for long, because they love change, and if the things are not changed, they will take the things in their hand to make the change happen. So this is what a design thinker is. They also believe in telling visual stories, because storyboarding leads to better connect with the audience. So whenever we know also that a written word is better than a verbal word, and a story or a picture is much more powerful, almost 1,000 times more powerful than a written word. So they normally try to generate stories. They normally try to create pictures, because that connects them to the audience in a stronger manner. So people get connected to them, and in the process, they can get connected to the innovative product. That means they are able to add values, because people are, when they see the product, they are ready to buy it also. And most important, the last thing, that they normally do all these things with a spirit of goodness. So the basic premise of making changes, making innovation, is to make society a better place to live in. So that's the basic objective, that they are doing all those changes, all those things, all those radical changes, all those innovative products, new products, because they want to give comfort to the users, comfort to the normal person, and the process make a better place to live in. So this is the idea, to make the world a better place to live in by design or engineering at every moment. Constantly they are working for improvement of the society. So in simple words, what is design thinking? So design thinking is nothing but where we have a group of open-minded designers and thoughtful engineers who like to do experiments, who make prototypes, and in the process they try to find defects in those prototypes. They try to improve upon those defects. They try to rectify those prototypes in the shortest possible time. And apart from all this engineering, they also include business analysis, because as I told you in the beginning, that unless until there's a value, unless until people are ready to buy a product, that's not innovation. So design thinking is in very short, it's a innovative way or creative way of problem solving. So when we say innovative way or creative way of problem solving, basically it means the product must be purchased by some of the clients. And that's where the business analysis will come into picture in the product development process. So, and when you do all those things, all the experiment, prototyping, discovering flaws, reworking, business analysis, basically what we are doing is we are able to launch better product in the market and make the people more satisfied. And this is what we call as successful innovation. So when better products are launched in the market, when people are more happy with your products, we call it a successful innovation. That means we are able to apply equally the left brain strength and the right brain strength. There's a proper mix and match of left brain, the strength of the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of human brain, because we are making products which are functional, which gives the correct solution, not incorrect solution, and they are creative also. So we do not want any creative solution which gives you wrong answer. I don't want to design a creative automobile where once you press the once you press the brake, rather than the vehicle getting stopped, it's being accelerated. So that will lead to accident. So this part of the task is taken care of by the left part of the brain. But to make a design innovative so that people without any defect put their right foot at the right pedal is the role of the right part of the brain. This is again all very important statement, because design innovation or design thinking, it helps you in combining business with design. Now, the purpose is that in the present time, business needs to be ambidextrous. It cannot have one logic; it has multiple logic, and these logics are like, if you are very creative designer, very creative engineer, you generate new and new solution, but nobody is going to buy your product. What is going to happen? It's a failed business. You are spending a lot of money in generating innovative products, probably out of your own mind, or maybe taking loan from a bank, or maybe getting funding from some bank, or maybe some VC or angel investor. But then you are leading to failed innovations because nobody is ready to purchase your product. On the other hand, you are a very good businessman, but you have not integrated design with your business, the design thinking with your business. Then what is going to happen? You will make products. You will make product version 1, then maybe version 1.1, version 1.2, version 1.2.1, version 1. You will not be able to make a radically different product. You probably may not be able to make a version 2 product, forget about altogether different breed of a product. That means you will be able to do some incremental innovation to your business, to your product, but not radical. Now, incremental innovations, incremental addition to your product leads to only very small changes. And the lifespan of such products is very short. Because people get bored, people get fed up with saying, they say, well, what is the difference between version 1.3 and 1.4? To me, they appears to be same. So why should I spend money in getting version 1.4 when I am getting happy with version 1.3? Because version 1.4 is costlier. So when such a scenario happens, although you have spent money in launching a new product, but nobody is going to purchase your product, so your business will be doomed. This is exactly what I've told you right now. So if you don't combine your business with design or design with business, the solution will be creative, but they will lead to failed innovations. And if you don't combine business with design, Your business will be excellent on the analysis side, but it will normally lead to only incremental innovation, no radical innovation, and it will lead to stagnation after a short interval. What does it mean? So the need of the hour is to find out creative producers and product managers who can work in cross-functional teams. Cross-functional teams are the teams which work across multiple disciplines, which develop deep user insights, who are ready to collaborate, who can visualize idea, and the most important, who can actually solve customer problem. They should not try to sell their solution to the customers. So say for example, you are hungry and you wanted to have maybe bread and dal roti, but the designer or the person to whom he wanted to sell you cake. Now you know that you love eating cake, but you're so hungry that you'll not even relish the taste of the cake. So not take it. Or maybe you want to have, as I said in the beginning of my talk also, you want to have ice cream. But person says, no, ice cream is very bad. This is raining outside. Your throat will become sore, blah, blah, this, that. And these days, it's very hot, it will melt. So why don't you eat gulab jamun? So why should I eat gulab jamun when I wanted to eat ice cream? I'm looking for something which is cold, which is going to refreshment. And you want to sell me hot gulab jamuns? I'll not have it. So we should not act in such a manner that rather than solving the actual customer problems, we try to sell our solutions to the people in the garb of that is your problem. So we should not try to tell them, no, this is a solution which you're looking for. But we should try to understand, this is very important, what is their actual problem. Now this is again, I'll come later, this is not an easy task because many times even the people are not aware what their problem is. So by the design thinking process, we should try to find out what the actual problem is. So rather than providing fancy design styling or branding, we should solve actual customers' problem. That's very important. What is innovation? Let's summarize this way. Innovation is an idea that sells. But then the question comes, how do you make sure that your idea is going to sell? Because we know that without failure, we cannot succeed. And behind every success, there are multiple failure stories. So what we as a critical creative design thinkers need to understand is to find out the probability of success behind each idea. And any idea which has the largest probability of success, we should try to nurture that idea. We should try to develop that idea. We should try to groom that idea because that will probably lead to the successful innovation. So we have to understand among the multiple ideas which we have thought of, which we have floated, which idea is going to have the highest probability of success, of succeeding. So which is only possible, how would you get it? That you must have some insights. So while you are producing or while you're selecting a product, like for example, when you go to market, maybe a garment shop, and you want to purchase a shirt, maybe for your upcoming interview, you don't take print shirts or maybe heavily dark colored shirt. You normally prefer a light pastel colored shirt or maybe a white shirt because you know that these are formal shirts and the probability of you being appreciated of putting on that particular shirt will be higher when you put on a light pastel colored shirt or white colored shirt by the interview panel rather than a bold colored shirt or a checked shirt or maybe a printed shirt, because that's what you have been trained at. So you'll not give a second thought to it. Same way when you are dealing with multiple products, you have to develop insights. Besides this, you have to fail early to succeed early. Don't keep on delaying things, because if you fail after 2 years, your 2 years will be lost. But if you fail after 2 days, you will be only losing 2 days, and you will be highly energized. The probability and the time to recoup will be very high and very less respectively. Time to recoup will be very less. The probability of rebounding back will be very high because you have not lost much. You have not wasted much. So this is how the design thinking process looks like. So we start with the starting point it is like a closed loop cycle. We can start from anywhere, but normally this is our starting point. This is a normal starting point. So we define the problem. We go for the need assessment and the benchmarking. That means we understand the user and the design space. We brainstorm. That means we generate multiple ideas. We build prototypes. We make multiple prototypes. We test those prototypes. And in the process, we learn from those prototypes. And based upon these input, we redefine the problem. So this term comes later. We redefine the problem, which says that the design never ends because we are redefining it. But this is, honestly speaking, this is a very simple design thinking process where everything seems to be in a linear manner. Okay, that we first define, then go for need assessment, then go for brainstorming, then go for prototyping, then go for testing. So this is similar to ideal scenario where all your thought process are being joined and you make a big cloud, big bubble, what we call as ideal. But actual scenario is not like this. Actual is like this. So you start with a big idea and they fizzle out into small droplets. And I don't know, ultimately you will be left with this or not even this also. So that's how the actual cycle looks like. So actual design thinking process is something like this. It is not cyclic in that particular manner. It's not linear. It doesn't follow one step or the other. So it is quite possible that after defining the problem, you take this path and go for brainstorming. After brainstorming, you take this path and go for testing. After testing, you find some error and probably you go back to the need assessment. So you can see there are a lot of crisscross in between, which makes our life really miserable because we have to do not only a lot of iterations, but we cannot follow a simple rule-based task in what we call as a design thinking process. The design thinking process is very complicated. We may have to jump from one stage to another stage. We may have to backtrack. We may have to jump multiple times forward. And most important, we do not know whether we are going to end. Well, practically we end up somewhere, that I'll tell you later, but yes, we do not know. So this leads to what is like what we are, when we say innovation is problem solving, what is problem solving? So the first step, very important step is that is a problem forming. So before you go for problem solving, you have to go for problem forming. So when you are able to make a problem statement, only then you can solve it. If you do not know the problem statement, you cannot solve it. And this will lead to generation of a product. Design thinking has very important things. Design thinking gives a lot of emphasis on user. And that's why we say it's a human-centric or user-centric. It keeps the user in the center of the entire design process. So it gives very strong emphasis to the people who are going to use the product, the designer who are going to make the solution. That's why it's called human-centric design. It is also multidisciplinary in nature. So people across different disciplines, not only among science or engineering, but people from psychology, from social sciences, from pure sciences, they also join hand and make interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary teams. It has a focus on end user. So the ultimate solution depends upon who the end user is. So for example, when you were a college-going kid and you found that there is no bus service from your home or from your hostel to go to the college, and you have to travel a lot of time, you get drained up. So you talk to your father and your father has gifted you one motorcycle. So the motorcycle, the customer of the motorcycle is your father because he has purchased it. He is the consumer. But end user are you because you are going to use it. So whenever we are going to design a product, it has to be focused on the end user because end user is the one who is going to use it, and it should meet the aspirations of the end user, and it is a iterative process. But then the question comes, what are we going to get? Because there's a blank box with a question mark over here. So what we do with the human-centric methodology, multi-step collaboration, end user focus, iterative. So what we get is an innovative product or the innovative system or the innovative service. So by joining off, by with the help of design thinking, which basically means these four things primarily, we are able to get innovative products, innovative systems, and innovative services. So design thinking is nothing but it works in a vibrant, interactive environment, and the process it promotes the learning process through quick conceptual prototypes. So you keep on creating prototypes, and these prototypes help you learn, and the entire environment is dynamic, vibrant, and interactive. Remember, this is what I told you in the beginning of my talk also, that we'll be able to appreciate more this talk if we behave in an interactive environment. Otherwise, it will become more a monologue. I'm constantly speaking. I'm not able to see your faces also. So I don't know whether you are understanding or not, whether you are sleeping or you are left out, you are not available, only your face is there. So you kept on your video, switched on your audio, and you have gone maybe having your lunch or maybe watching TV. I don't know. So if we have an interactive environment, actually, it will keep both of us engaged. So design thinking is basically a combination of creation, behavior, and values. I'll tell you the importance of these three a few slides down the ladder also. But this is very important. The design thinking will always lead to creation of new and new solution. And it's more behavioral change. I cannot force anyone to generate newer creative solutions. So it is more behavior science based, and it always gives some values. Look at this. So we have a product and we have a service. Now most of the people talk about product and service in a different manner. But honestly speaking, product and services are not different. So you cannot have a product which offers you a service. Same way you cannot have a service which can be offered without a product. Like for example, you take a mobile phone, which is a product. It is giving you a service of communication, talking to different people, maybe sending images, sending WhatsApp messages, taking photographs, or maybe taking maybe two-wheeler or maybe car. That's providing you a transportation service, the facility of moving from point A to point B. Same way, take any service. Maybe you take a banking service. Banking services cannot be provided unless and until you have some ledgers, some computers, and banking tools. Take a health service. It cannot be provided unless until you have for example, different equipment, different devices which doctors use, maybe a stethoscope, maybe a testing bed, maybe operation theater. Or take education sector. We cannot teach unless until we have good classrooms, physical infrastructure, having multimedia system, because most of the time we are talking with the help of multimedia these days. So these are all products. So none of the products can function without a service, and none of the service can be delivered without a product. So both of them are very strongly intertwined, and their intertwining leads to a complete thing. Both of them are included in something what we call a system. System will have a product and it will offer some service. Talk of banking system, talk of hospital system, or hospitalization system, everything will have a product and will offer some service. So this is a product design process, what we call a design thinking process also. So we start with define, which is giving the brief, research, ideate, prototype, select, implement, and learn. So we always start with a brief, which is called a design brief. It's a starting point for going for creative solutions. We do a research background study. We go for ideation, that means generate multiple solutions, test those solutions. We resolve those solutions with the help of prototyping. We use our rationale to select the best possible solution. We deliver that solution in the form of implementation, and we have a feedback. Now, this is a simple flow chart of design process or design thinking process. But actually, as I told you earlier also, this entire process is iterative in nature. You not only jump from, may have to jump from here to here, then from here to here, then maybe here. But it's also possible that this becomes your step number one. So you're starting from ideate. So normally we say the design process is linear, but very frequently it involves revisiting the earlier segments for reworking as we go along. So let's discuss one by one in very short so that we know what is the design thinking process, all these steps. So stage one is define, which basically establish what the problem is. This I've been telling you multiple times in today's talk itself. So you have to understand what customer want. And please remember that we are trying to get the problem statement from the customer, while the customer himself or herself does not know what she or he wants. So we have to talk to them, we have to conduct interviews, we have to go for focus group, we have to go for user study, we have to do research to find out what really customer wants. So we say that many times he say that he is looking for some very beautiful pen, but basically he's meaning that he wants a black color pen with a gold outline. Or he says that on the contrary, some other person says that he wants his very sober cup and saucers for his office. So very sober basically means bone china cup and saucer, white color with golden rim. So this is what you have to understand, that once the customer is speaking X, does he mean X, or he basically implies A? So in spite of the fact that you are talking to customers in your local language, your local customers, maybe people who belong to Andhra, they were talking to people in Telugu, people who belong to Kerala, they were talking to the customers in Malayalam, people who belongs to Jammu, they were talking to the customer in Dogri, people from Punjab, they were talking in Punjabi. But still, talking to customers is like they are speaking Latin and Greek. You will not understand. So you have to understand very clearly that once he is talking about A, and he says that he wants A, it basically means that he wanted alpha. He doesn't want A. This comes with experience. This comes with practice. So experiential learning is very important. And the define starts with generating or receiving a design brief. So if you're doing a job for some other company, the company people will give you a design brief. Say tomorrow I hire you to make a website for me. So I'll give you a website that please make a design brief, or please make a website for me with these features. This is the task I want to do. These many times I'll be making changes in the website. These many times I'll be making improvements in the website, but that will become my design brief. But if you are not doing it for some other, you are doing on your own, which normally most of the time we do, we have to generate the design brief by doing a thorough user study. So basically design brief is the client's requirement for the job. It defines very specifically what the goal is, what output the customer is expecting. And it also tries to understand the working relationship. What are the key terms? So probably first time you will not be very clear, but next time, second time, third time, if you're dealing with the same set of clients, when he says to you, chill out, be cool, it basically means you relax. You need not worry too much about this particular feature. Or when he says, make it a stylish. So basically, does he mean making very bold design, very bold or dark, bright colors? or maybe something very sober, bad finish. So same word can have multiple interpretation, and that comes from the key terms. Key terms can be understood only when you have a working relationship. Then this is a very important way to generate a design brief, what we call as 5 Ws, and we also include 1 H, that is how also. These 5 Ws have been borrowed in design thinking from the newspaper writing style. Because newspaper ask these questions, newspaper journalists ask these questions, 5 Ws, to make the entire story. So here also we do the same thing. We say who your client is. Try to understand your client and target audience in terms of size, nature, characteristics. If, for example, you have been asked to design a two-wheeler. Now, please understand that whether you are making two-wheelers for girls or boys, it will be different. You are making two-wheelers for maybe lower strata people with income having lower strata, or maybe students, or people who are very rich, because they will prefer to have a stylish bike. Or maybe if you want to make it for girls with lower income strata, we know if you're designing for people of Eastern Asia, for example, Japan, China, Vietnam, Korea, or whether you want to make it for maybe North American and European girls. You know, the physiques are different for a Japanese girl and a North American girl. So maybe same size bike will be too large, too tall for a Japanese girl. It might be too small too short for a Canadian girl. So you have to understand. So you have to understand the size, nature, characteristics. Then you have to also understand what design solution is the client looking for. Is client looking for just some idea, some reasoning, or is also looking for some product, some print, some web, some video? Then when will the design be needed and for how long? That basically deals with the project timescales. You want it tomorrow, or maybe you want it 5 years down the line, and you want it to last for 2 months or 2 decades. That's very important. Where will the design be used? Whether it be media, paper, pen, product, location, Japan, China, Canada, or maybe even India. Maybe you want to do it for urban people or local people or rural people. So that's where you talk about. Then why does, this is a very important question, the client think that the design solution is needed? Why at all design solution is needed? Because you have to understand, is there some problem with the existing product? If there are no problems, you will go for change. But if they are facing some problems and if you are ready to give them a solution which can address those problems, people will go for change. Then how will the solution be implemented? Okay, that's very important. Now, if you look at this, this is where any company should work. So any company has 3 different things. It tries to sell a product. It has some values. It has some proposition. Like for example, even if you take the same product, like for example, Tata Motors or Maruti Suzuki or BMW, all of them make cars, but they target different values. The values are different. Like BMW or Mercedes, they target high-end luxury cars. Tata Entry-Level is basically a low-cost solution for transportation. People who just want to move from wheelers to 4-wheelers, Tata Nano is a perfect example. Same is true with the Maruti also to a very large extent. And then they have some propositions. Like Maruti will talk about fuel efficient cars. Tata Nano will talk about strong rugged cars. Okay. Same way if you look at maybe e-commerce platform, Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Zomato, Swiggy, everything does an online delivery. But their products are different. If, for example, Swiggy deals with food items, ready to eat, Amazon doesn't do it. But then Amazon, Flipkart, even JioMart, they deal with the same thing. So their propositions are different. That you need to understand And once you're defining the problem statement, you should align these three. I've shown in the form of concentric circles, but it may not be circles. They should be like this. So every company should have some value. Within that value, they should be talking about products, and every product should have a proposition. So this is the most important part, which makes you different than any other company, which gives you a different thinking. And that's lead to what we call as your own unique selling point or point of difference. So you should be very clear. You should have very clear understanding of the product, values, proposition. I just noticed that I'm running short of time, so probably I have to slightly hurry up. So then we go for research. Research means that you have to do the background study, you have to talk to people, conduct interviews. So collect background information. It can be primary research, secondary research, and tertiary research. So primary research is when you talk to people. Secondary research is when you collect the data from some booklets, bulletins, websites, trade brochures, company brochures. Tertiary research is when you talk to when somebody else provides information, when you land up some information which is not covered by primary research and secondary research. But most important part of the research is that you should make up some mental model. Mental model is that you should be clear what type of audience you are targeting at. Because the type of question you will be asking and type of research you will be doing will be different once you are making a two-wheeler for boys or two-wheeler for the girls. And even if you're two-wheeler for the girl, whether you're making for the Japanese girl or whether you're making for the Canadian girl. The third stage is ideation, where you generate multiple solutions. So they create potential solutions. Now there can be hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of solutions. Not all solutions will be good. But one very important point about ideation is that you should not be judgmental at this point of time. It means that just like a newly born baby is dear to his or her mother, any idea is just like a baby to a designer or the person who is proposing that idea. So a mother never thinks of killing her baby, even if the baby is not good, maybe mentally or medically or physically. Same is true with a designer. You should not kill your own idea until you are able to extract some good point out of it. So you have to propose to create a potential solution. Like for example, I have shown you one very brief example that I can write my name in different ways. And this is only possible when you go for some experimentation or maybe brainstorming. I can also write my name in a very different manner. I can write my name when I say I'm writing a stylish manner. I write like this. Now I know this is not a correct style of E, but then I'm allowing my mind to wander, to think what even logic or science is not teaching me. So I can write even for stylish purpose and E like this. Okay, I'm writing on a vertical screen, so I'm not able to. So without considering what is right or what is wrong, rejecting all preconceptions, because that's what a free thinking is. Probably if I put my signatures on a piece of art, I'll put like this, which is grammatically not correct. By English is not clear, but that becomes a signature because it's a free thinking, and that's what creative thinking is. It's out of box thinking. Fourth stage is prototyping. When you make physical products out of the solution, you resolve the solution by making physical, although virtual prototypes are also there, but normally we prefer physical prototypes because they help you in looking at the problem and coming up. Then we go for concept selection. So out of multiple concepts, we cannot make product for all those 1,000 things. We have to make only one product. So we'll pick up the best concept. Now the best concept cannot be one out of those 1,000. It is many times what we happen is that we do a process like converge, diverge, converge, diverge, converge, further converge, diverge, and finally converge. So that means we start with 1,000 solutions. We reject 500 solutions at all. Not good. Then even after rejecting those 500 solutions, we catch some good points out of it, and we add to already existing solutions. So we make from 500 to 600. That's what divergence is. Again, from 600, we reject 500 concepts come down to 100. Again, add a few new concepts or maybe join the old concepts to create new concepts. We keep on doing this unless until we are left with the best concept which have been rated by the entire design team, because that's the concept which we are going to take forward in the form of a formal product which we are going to launch into the market. To go selection, selection is to make choices. Then we go for implementation. We implement it, that we practically make the product, we manufacture it, we deliver the solution to the clients to say that it has met the design brief, it is as per the design requirements. Then the implementation stage also sees a design put into the production stage. So physically the products are being made. Then we also learn in the entire process what we call is obtaining feedback. Based upon feedback, we may have to go back to define stage, we may have to go for ideation stage, we may have to go back to any of these 6 previous stages and improvise that particular stage. That means this is leading to iteration. So the basic purpose is to give you an opportunity to refine your solution and make the process, the entire sequence iterated. So this is like, again, from where we have started about the design thinking process. We start with define, research, ideate, prototype, selection, implement, learn. So this is like a very good, neat and clean picture of design thinking process. But practically, it's very much jumbled up. But it's very important because this is a process which leads to creative solution of the problems. So whatever problem you face, whether it's into the product design, whether it's into designing, or whether even making your relations stronger with respect to spouse. So I may sound like a consultant. I may like to sound like a psychologist, but any of you, I wish nobody among this audience has, but any one of you is having a problem with her husband or his wife, please adopt this creative problem solution technology, and I'm sure all your problems will be vanished into the oblivion and you will have a very successful life. So any problem, please do not try to solve in a esoteric manner. Try to solve in a different manner, creative problem solution method. And that's what I want to conclude. And I want to thank you for being a patient listener. Although we don't have much time, but still I can take some questions if you have any questions. So we still have 7 minutes. Good. I was thinking that we are close to 3. So I can take a few questions if anybody has.
Hello, participants. Any questions? If you have questions, so ask.
I like to add one more thing. My strong belief is that if the audience is not asking questions, it's only 2 stages. Either everybody has understood everything, or nobody has understood anything. The possibility of first is very low, so I can presume that nothing has been adopted by anybody. That's my bad.
Just a minute, sir. I write.
How to think. Try to find solutions to any given problem. That's important. How to think. You have been thinking. Let me tell you a very interesting thing. Like design thinking, we have been following almost 24/7. Most of the time, we follow in a subconscious mind. Like in the night, when you go to your bed to sleep, the way you lay your bed, the place where you keep your pillow, that's also design thinking. In the morning, you get up, and you just think whether you want to brush up your teeth first or you want to wash your face first. That's also your thinking and you're doing design thinking. But most of the time you're doing with a subconscious mind. My only request to all of you is to make your mind conscious and think in a conscious manner. Because the problems what we are talking about related to engineering domain are not subconscious problems but conscious problems. Could I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Sir, good afternoon. Tandon sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I am Dr. Pushpatan Jain from VIT Bhopal University. I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, sir, there are various tools are associated with the design thinking. Like empathy mapping is there, mind mapping is there, journey mapping is there, and why theories are there. Question ladder as well as.
Many,
Okay.
many.
Yeah, many tools are there. Sir, I do have a question. What do you think? Which tool is better?
What does?
Which tool is better for design thinking? Like if you want
When you
to.
started speaking the different tools, I was
Yeah,
expecting
sir.
that you are going to ask this question.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you cannot compare these tools actually. The most of the tools are for different stages and they depend upon situation to situation. Okay. So, for example, I say that for concept selection, good concept selection method is probably one of the best method. Good concept selection method is one of the best method, but it will not be the best solution for all the scenarios. And that's why I said the design process is iterative. So many times what we have to do is that we have to apply first tool, then apply second tool, then apply third tool, and see. We in fact keep on applying the same tool, the different tools, and we stop only when there is not even a delta improvement in the solution. So when there is no improvement, we find out that whatever tools we have applied, they're sufficient. I still cannot comment that X tool is better than Y tool or which is better than Z tool. But maybe one thing you should understand that whatever tools you mentioned, they are meant for different stages of design thinking process. Not all tools
Yes,
can
sir.
be applied for all these stages. Mind mapping is applied for a stage where you are going for ideation. In fact, even before you start ideation, where you are trying to understand what the customer is talking about. Maybe you start applying mind mapping from the definition stage. But to concept selection, you do only when the ideas are complete. You don't apply to concept selection method before you have the idea. Same way, if you apply the fishbone chart diagram for different stage, if you apply any other tool for different stage. Okay?
Yeah, sir. One more thing. Sir, basically, human-centered design is somewhat related with the design thinking, or we can say design thinking is an extension of the human-centered design.
People also talk about user-centered design, the user-centered design, the parallel that design thinking. I will just put my statement like this: the major focus of